Paraguay is almost exactly the size of California. California holds close to 40 million people. Paraguay holds about 7 million, and most of them are packed into just 40% of the country. The other 60%, a region called the Gran Chaco, is so thinly populated that stretches of it still don't have a paved road. Paraguay didn't run out of land. Almost nobody settled most of it. And right now, a growing number of American retirees are choosing to move there anyway, not despite how empty it is, but partly because of what comes with it: rock-bottom living costs, one of the simplest residency programs on the planet, and a safety record that might catch you off guard. So how did Paraguay end up this lopsided? And why is it suddenly landing on so many retirees' shortlists? Let's start with the land, then work through exactly what it takes to actually move there. Paraguay sits landlocked in the middle of South America, boxed in by Argentina, Brazil, and Bolivia. No coastline. Instead, two rivers, the Paraguay and the Parana, do the work a coast normally would, carrying trade out toward the Atlantic through Argentina. The country splits into two very different halves. East of the Paraguay River, rolling hills, fertile red soil, steady rainfall, and the river access that made settlement possible in the first place. That's where you'll find Asunción, the capital, along with Ciudad del Este on the Brazilian border and Encarnación on the Argentine border. Roughly 97% of all Paraguayans live in this eastern third of the country. West of the river is the Chaco, hot, dry, flat, and mostly undeveloped. Summer temperatures regularly clear 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Parts flood in the rainy season and crack open in the dry one. Cattle ranches out there can run the size of small American counties, worked by a handful of people, surrounded by nothing. Indigenous communities and Mennonite colonies that settled the region nearly a century ago still call it home, but the population density is some of the lowest anywhere in South America. Two regions, one country, and one of them absorbed almost everybody. Paraguay declared independence from Spain in 1811, one of the earliest countries in South America to do so. And almost immediately, it did something unusual: it shut the door. Under its first strongman ruler, José Gaspar Rodríguez de Francia, the country sealed its borders for decades and built a self-sufficient, isolated state while its neighbors were opening up to European trade and immigration. That isolation set a pattern that would prove costly. When Paraguay's next rulers, the López family, decided to flex the country's military muscle in the 1860s, it triggered the deadliest war South America has ever seen. From 1864 to 1870, Paraguay fought Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay at the same time, the War of the Triple Alliance, and lost badly. Historians still debate the exact numbers, and that debate hasn't settled. But the most rigorous recent research puts Paraguay's population loss somewhere around 60%, with the toll falling hardest on Paraguayan men. For a generation afterward, the country was, demographically, made up mostly of women. That war reset Paraguay's population clock by decades, and it happened right as neighboring Argentina and Uruguay were absorbing millions of European immigrants. Paraguay, broke and recovering, largely missed that wave. It's a major reason the population gap between Paraguay and its neighbors never closed. Just as the country found its footing again, a second war showed up. From 1932 to 1935, Paraguay fought Bolivia over the Chaco, after both sides became convinced it was sitting on oil. Paraguay won, claiming most of the disputed territory. The oil never really materialized. What Paraguay ended up with was hard-won land that, even today, barely anyone lives on. Then came a stretch familiar to a lot of 20th-century Latin America: coups, instability, and eventually one man overstaying his welcome by decades. General Alfredo Stroessner ruled from 1954 to 1989, 35 years, until one of his own generals overthrew him and the country began, slowly, building a democracy. It's held elected, civilian governments ever since. Here's the part most people miss, though: Paraguay's story doesn't end with dictatorship. In the past 2 years, both Moody's and S&P have upgraded the country to investment-grade credit status, a bar most of its bigger, louder neighbors like Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina still haven't cleared. The economy grew nearly 6% in 2025. Foreign investment hit a record high the same year. Without much international attention, Paraguay has turned into one of the more macroeconomically stable countries in South America. So you're left with an unusual combination: a country still catching up in population, sitting on a run of recent economic wins that outperforms countries 3 or 4 times its size. A handful of things separate Paraguay from the rest of the region, and they matter if retirement is the plan. Starting with language, Paraguay is properly bilingual. Spanish and Guarani, an indigenous language, are both official, and most of the population speaks Guarani at home. That's rare. In most of Latin America, indigenous languages are minority languages. In Paraguay, Guarani is mainstream, not a footnote. Then there's the power grid. Paraguay shares the Itaipu Dam with Brazil, one of the largest hydroelectric plants on Earth. Paraguay's own homes and businesses only need a fraction of its half share of the output, so the country sells the rest to Brazil, meaning Paraguay runs on close to 100% renewable electricity and profits from the surplus at the same time. The one that matters most for a retiree is the tax system. Paraguay taxes only money earned inside its own borders. Your Social Security check, your pension, your 401k withdrawals, if that income was earned outside the country, Paraguay doesn't touch it. 0%. That single rule puts Paraguay in a small club of countries worldwide, and it's the reason a lot of retirees started paying attention in the first place. For the cost of living in Paraguay, a single retiree can live comfortably in Asunción, Paraguay's capital and largest city, on roughly $1,200 to $2,000 a month, covering rent, groceries, transportation, and going out. A couple can live well on about $2,000 to $2,800 a month. Settle somewhere smaller, like the riverside town of Encarnación or the lakeside community of San Bernardino, and a couple can trim that down to $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Rent is where the savings show up fastest. A modern 2-bedroom apartment in a good Asunción neighborhood, Villa Mora or Recoleta, where most expats end up, runs $400 to $800 a month. Buying is just as accessible. Foreigners can own property in Paraguay under the exact same rights as citizens, no special permissions, no restrictions. A modern condo in a nice part of Asunción runs $60,000 to $150,000. A house with some land runs $100,000 to $300,000, depending on location. Property taxes stay under 1% of assessed value per year. Food follows the same pattern. Paraguay is one of the world's larger beef and soy exporters, so meat, in particular, is both high quality and cheap. Basics like rice and eggs cost a fraction of US prices. Utilities for a typical apartment run $20 to $60 a month. Here's the number that puts it all in perspective: the average Social Security check in the US runs around $1,900 a month. In most American cities, that barely covers rent. In Paraguay, that same check can fund a comfortable retirement on its own, and thanks to the tax system we just covered, it arrives untouched. The visa and residency part tends to surprise people most, because Paraguay has quietly become one of the easiest countries on earth to legally move to. Here's how it works. You start with temporary residency, and this is the part that used to require a $5,000 bank deposit. As of a 2022 law change, it no longer does. No minimum income, no investment, no deposit required on the standard route. Show up with the standard paperwork, a clean police background check, a valid passport, and a set of apostilled documents, and Paraguay grants 2 years of temporary residency. After those 2 years, you convert to permanent residency, which requires showing you can support yourself financially. Paraguay updated the exact requirements for this step in 2026, so it's worth checking current rules before applying. If you'd rather skip the wait entirely, there's a fast-track option. Invest around $70,000 into an approved local business or investment, and you can go straight to permanent residency in a matter of weeks. Once you're a permanent resident, you can live, work, bank, and own property exactly like a citizen. The only thing off the table is voting. And if full citizenship is the goal, Paraguay allows naturalization after just 3 years of permanent residency, one of the fastest paths anywhere in the world. For Americans who just want to scout the place first, no visa is needed at all. U.S. passport holders can visit for up to 90 days, extendable once for a total of 180, plenty of time to check out neighborhoods before committing to anything. The tax picture only sweetens the deal. Once you're a resident, local Paraguayan income is taxed on a sliding scale that tops out at 10%. Everything you earn or receive from outside the country, pension, investments, social security, stays at zero. There's no wealth tax and no inheritance tax, either. So what does day-to-day life actually look like here in Paraguay? Paraguay runs on a subtropical climate, hot, humid summers from November through March, with Asunción regularly hitting the mid-90s, and mild, dry winters from June through August that rarely dip below the 50s. No snow, no real cold season, a big selling point for retirees done with shoveling driveways. Asunción has grown into a genuinely livable capital, shopping malls, a walkable riverside district, international restaurants, and a small but active expat community concentrated in neighborhoods like Villa Mora and Carmelitas. Prefer something quieter? Encarnación sits on the Parana River and has built a reputation as a kind of mini beach town, popular with Argentine tourists in summer, increasingly popular with retirees year-round. San Bernardino, on Lake Ipacaray, is the weekend house town, lake cottages, slower pace. What Paraguay doesn't have is a stack of famous landmarks. No Machu Picchu, no beaches that make magazine covers. The closest brush with a world-famous attraction is Ciudad del Este, a short drive from Iguazu Falls on the Argentine and Brazilian side. What Paraguay offers instead is a quiet, unhurried, community-first way of life, asado barbecues, yerba mate passed around a shared cup, local festivals over nightlife, and a culture where Paraguayans are known for their warmth toward foreigners. Football is close to a national religion here too, and catching a live match in Asunción is its own kind of entertainment. One practical note, English isn't widely spoken outside expat circles. Getting by is one thing, settling in for good requires at least conversational Spanish. Healthcare is where Paraguay asks for a bit more homework than some retirement hotspots, but for retirees who put in that homework, it holds up well. Public healthcare exists, but it's underfunded and often crowded, and it's not what most expats rely on. Private healthcare is the real answer, and it's remarkably affordable. A private insurance plan for a retiree in their 60s typically runs $50 to $100 a month. A routine doctor's visit costs $30 to $80 out of pocket. Quality concentrates in Asunción. Private hospitals like Hospital Bautista, Sanatorio Adventista, and Hospital Privado Francis offer modern facilities, and many of their doctors are trained in the US, Argentina, or Brazil, which also makes English-speaking physicians easier to find in the capital than anywhere else in the country. However, healthcare thins out fast once you leave the major cities. Settle somewhere rural, and you're trading lower living costs for a longer drive to quality care. For the most complex procedures, major surgeries, rare specialists, some expats still fly to Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo, both a short flight away. For everyday needs, though, checkups, prescriptions, dentistry, most emergencies, Asunción's private system covers it, at a fraction of what the same care costs back home. Thinking about how safe Paraguay is. Safety is usually the first worry Americans raise about a move to South America, and Paraguay's numbers tell a more reassuring story than most people expect. The U.S. State Department currently rates Paraguay at Level 1, exercise normal precautions, its lowest, safest advisory category. Paraguay and Argentina are the only two countries in South America to hold that rating. Paraguay's homicide rate sits around 6 per 100,000 people, in the same range as Chile and well below Brazil's roughly 21 per 100,000 or Colombia's roughly 25. On the latest Regional Peace Index, Paraguay ranks as the fourth safest country in South America. Safety isn't uniform everywhere, though. 5 departments along the Brazilian border, including Amambe and Alto Parana, home to Ciudad del Este, carry a higher risk advisory because of smuggling activity, and the State Department specifically flags caution there. Most retirees never spend meaningful time in those border regions anyway. In the neighborhoods where expats actually settle, Villa Mora, Recoleta, and Carmelitas in Asunción, or Encarnación overall, the bigger concern isn't violent crime, it's petty theft, pickpocketing, bag snatching, and motorcycle grab and run robberies in crowded areas. The precautions are the same ones that work in any big city: skip the flashy jewelry, stay alert in markets, and take a taxi or rideshare instead of walking alone after dark. No country is risk-free. But by the numbers, Paraguay is one of the safer places in the region, statistically safer than several countries that get far more glowing press. So, why is Paraguay so empty? A war that gutted its population. A dictatorship that closed the country off from the world. And a stretch of land in the Chaco so unforgiving that, even a century later, almost nobody has settled it. And why are retirees moving there anyway? Because everything that kept Paraguay quiet for 2 centuries, the smaller population, the underdeveloped land, the fact that most of the world overlooked it, is exactly what makes it affordable now. Cheap living. Close to zero tax on foreign income. One of the easiest residency processes on earth. And a level of safety most people don't expect from this part of the map. Paraguay isn't the right fit for every retiree. But for the right one, it might be one of the best kept secrets left in South America. Now, I would love to hear from you. Would you consider retiring in Paraguay? What part of the country would you choose? The capital city of Asunción, the riverside charm of Encarnación, the peaceful setting of San Bernardino, or perhaps one of the smaller towns where you can enjoy a quieter pace of life? Let me know in the comments below. If you find this video valuable, do well to like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates on retirement destinations that we share here. These updates will help you make informed decisions about where to spend your golden years. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.